have BioLIG, which is Functionalizing Biocomposites with Laser-induced Graphene for Biorapid Prototyping of Electronics. And this will be presented by Lucy Lee from the MIT Media Lab. Just whenever you're ready.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Thank you for the introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Lucy and I'm a first-year PhD student at the MIT Media Lab in the Tangible Media Group. And on behalf of the team, I'm here to present BioLIG, Functionalizing Biocomposites with Laser-induced Graphene for Biorapid Prototyping of Electronics. As a multidisciplinary team of designers, electrical engineers, and material scientists, we like to make physical things. However, we're often faced with the fact that many things we create end up in the landfill, vastly outliving our human lifespans. So we started this research with the question, can we create bio-based materials for green electronics using accessible fabrication tools? Making up about 50% of all plant matter, cellulose is the most abundant polymer on this planet. The fibrous strands of cellulose can not only be mechanically used, but can also be graphitized into porous graphene via a CO2 laser. The resulting laser-induced graphene, or LIG, exhibits high electrical conductivity compared to other carbon conductors, and the fabrication process is computationally controlled, allowing for precision and repeatability. So first, we want to talk about the substrate. Traditionally, laser-induced graphene is on a synthetic material called polyamide, yet the inherent high carbon content of biomaterials make them especially suitable for this fabrication technique. However, natural materials have the tendency to shrink, deform, and warp, which can all negatively impact the performance of LIG. One core contribution of this paper is to innovate on bio-based material that prioritizes consistency. Our substrate consists of 4 components. In this picture, you can see the cellulose in the form of newspaper print, which has short fibers resulting in a smooth final surface. For the binder, we use sodium alginate. For the solvent, we work with distilled water. And to keep the materials flexible, we added glycerin as a plasticizer. Here's a short video of us making the material, mixing it together into the blender to create a slurry, which is then evenly spread onto the tray for drying. So iterating on the different sources of polymer, we created 3 sheet materials, the BioLIG paper, which is a paper-like robust material with tensile strength comparable to that of brown craft paper. The BioLIG fabric, which is a fabric-like soft flexible material based on cellulose nanofibers, and the BioLIG plastic, which contains lignin and PVA, making it rigid and more water repellent. In the middle column, you can see the material samples, and on the rightmost column, you can see the material both before and after graphitization under 250 times magnification. In addition to sheets, we also created 2 paints that can be brushed onto different surfaces to allow LIG to be induced on off-the-shelf products. This chart compares the electrical performance of LIG induced on different material groups, from the preliminary tests of off-the-shelf materials on the left to variations of our own recipes. One can see that the paints perform particularly well, and the ink is even on par with LIG induced on petroleum counterpart, the polyamide. The second step is the laser-induced graphene. The power, speed, and especially the defocusing of the laser play crucial roles in the successful formation. It is, when you've used a laser cutter, you should be familiar with these settings, but there are a couple of clues, visual clues that you can look out for. When there's not enough power, as you can see on the left, the formation is incomplete, resulting in amorphous carbon, and when there's too much power, the substrate turns into char or can even burn through. At the optimal laser setting, one can observe bright light during the carbonization and is then left with a dark gray to black layer of laser-induced graphene that is conductive. Immediately after the carbonization, however, the LIG can be fragile to environmental factors such as moisture or abrasion from the hands. Therefore, we characterize 3 biodegradable yet robust coatings. This is step 3. You can see me dip like a paper sample into wax. These coatings make the sensors water repellent, abrasion resistant, and we also tried out a tape for an easy protection. And with these 4 layers of substrate, paint, LIG, and coating, they can be assembled to form biocomposites with different properties depending on the applications that you want, such as an interactive paper model that combines the laser cutter's cutting, engraving, and LIG to make an interactive foldable tent structure in one single step, or a humidity sensor that makes use of the inherent water sensitivity properties of cellulose. And furthermore, we also created a custom mold to allow for personalized, visual appealing, and precise sensor designs. The proximity sensor here is, for example, coated with wax and can be used for human-plant interaction, where we do not want to introduce chemically harsh materials into the very ecosystem we're trying to sense. And LIG is also very versatile in the sense that it can be used as a lightweight heating material. We combined it with thermochromatic paint to create an electrically controlled heating pad. And the last application combines all the layers, including the BioLIG fabric, on which we then applied the ink to enhance electrical properties, and then we ligged on top of it, folded it on top of each other to make a sealed bend sensor typically used in many on-body sensing applications. And while the focus of this paper is more on the material contributions, these applications give examples of how BioLIG can be useful for the community. In the last step, we researched the degradation and how BioLIG can be incorporated into a cyclical making process. There are 3 techniques. First, reusing. Laser cutting is the subtractive fabrication method, often leaving the maker with small pieces of awkwardly shaped scrap materials. We reblended them into new sheets and tested their functionality throughout 5 rounds. Another option would also to be dissolve. When no longer needed, the applications can be dissolved and it can be separated from the cables, the connectors, and the components. And lastly, the material is biodegradable. Some of them are even compostable. As you can see here, I think within 3 days, depending on the weather condition, it dissolves, it loses 95% of its weight. So there are some learnings throughout this process. Besides the lower cost and sustainability advantage of using bio-based materials, surprisingly, one of the advantages we found is that bio-rapid prototyping might be faster, which can be a crucial factor in an iterative prototyping process. Our workflow takes about 14 hours from making the material to using the sensor. This is faster than most shipping options and can be even compared with overnight shipping. Of course, there are also some limitations allowing for future work. So first of all, the interconnects. We've been mainly focusing on the sensors and not so much the integration with the other components. This is an important part. And also, since you're making your own sensor, it is not a plug and go, but you first need to characterize the sensor, but it also opens up space for a possible design tool that would allow you to do that much faster. Yeah, all in all, with this toolkit and fabrication technique, we hope to contribute to the growing landscape of interaction design with natural and bio-based materials in HCI. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Any questions? Yes.
I want to ask about, because I designed the PCB board, and we always use the protocol like SPI, so the voltage will change rapidly and frequently. So my question is, if this biotech can support the rapidly change of the voltage.
I think this, so the LIG itself is mostly used for sensing applications rather than as conductors directly. There are ways to kind of, we've been exploring into how to copper plating these to make them into more traditional kind of ways to support integration with ICs or as you said, control elements.
Oh,
yes.
I got it. Thank you.
I think we have time for one quick question while the next speaker gets ready. Yeah.
Hello, Yuqing from Zhejiang University. I'm curious about the stability of the sensor. Have you used it for a long time and test the stability?
Yes, actually the coded examples have been tested over months. They're still working. So yeah, there is the consistency is ensured once you've coated them. For the non-coated materials, we've compared it to a conventional humidity sensor, for example, and the lifespan is definitely much shorter, but it is also doesn't leave traces behind. So there's kind of a compromise you have to go. If you want it to live longer, you coat it. If you're using it for prototyping purposes, you might not even need it to last that long.
I see. Thank you.
Let's thank Lucy once again.